How's it going, guys? TJ Bennett here and welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be looking at interfaces. Interfaces are similar to abstract classes. There are a few exceptions. Interfaces cannot contain executable code. When I say executable code, I just mean you will not be able to assign variables data or define methods within an interface. All data members or methods in interfaces can only be public. A class can only inherit from one other class, but a class can have an implementation from multiple interfaces, as many as you want. Let's look at an example using a car. Before we define our car class, let's define our interfaces. An interface can be simple and can contain only one method or data member. That's perfectly fine and is seen in many practices. To declare an interface, you use the keyword interface, then declare your identifier for that interface. Let's create an iDrivable interface. The best practice when declaring interface identifiers is by adding a capital I at the beginning followed by another capital of the name. We'll declare a void drive method. Notice that the method doesn't have a definition or have private or public modifiers. This is because we're working within an interface. We'll also create an iBuyable interface with the decimal price data member and a void buy method. Now when we create our class car, we can implement our interfaces similar to how we would inherit from another class, but we can implement multiple interfaces compared to only being able to inherit from one class. Although there are some similarities to inheritances, we would not say that this class is inheriting from interfaces, but we would say that this class has an interface implementation. Now, since we have implemented these interfaces, we needed to implement the data members and methods referenced in each interface and define them. Here we will use public modifiers for the data members and methods. When you compare the syntax to inheritance, you'll notice that we're not using the abstract or override keywords. What happens is as long as the names of our data members and methods matches those of the interface, they will share the same signature and Visual Studios will be able to distinguish connection between the declarations. Next, I want to show you how you can identify interfaces in a collection of objects. To simplify the example, we'll remove the iBuyable interface and its implementation. We'll then create an iItem interface that contains a name. Next, we'll create an iSittable interface with a void sit method. We'll add iItem to our car class. And then we'll create a new class chair with an implementation of the iItem and iSittable interfaces. In our main method, let's create a list of iItems. We'll instantiate a few cars, a few chairs, and then add them to the list. Now there are three new keywords that I want to introduce. The first keyword is var. Instead of declaring a data type with a variable, you can use the keyword var. Var will look at the value of the variable and determine what data type it needs to be. When we hover over each var, we can see that Visual Studios is identifying the correct data type for each variable. Now let's create a for each loop that loops through all the items of the list. Remember, in this loop, item is a reference to each item in the list. We can create a temporary variable that is created in each iteration of the loop. We'll declare var drivable equals item as iDrivable. The as keyword is the second keyword I want to introduce. What this will do is if the item has the iDrivable interface implemented, then it will assign the item's value to drivable. If it doesn't contain the iDrivable interface, then the variable will not be assigned the value and will have a null value, meaning nothing is assigned to it. We can then create an if statement. If drivable is not equal to null, Then we can implement console.writeLine saying that this item is drivable. A different option to finding a matching interface will look like this. We can create an if statement saying if item is isittable to output the item is hittable. The is and as keywords are used for testing type compatibility. Lastly, I want to mention when you're writing code, write your code as if someone else is going to use it. It could be a developer utilizing your classes or interfaces, or a user who doesn't have any directions on what to do in your program. This is a skill you will continue to build upon as you continue to practice user interactions, exception handling, and following best practices when structuring your code to look professional. If you're following along in the series, in your vending machine app, implement multiple interfaces instead of using an inheritance. If you want to be notified each time I make a video, feel free to subscribe and click on the bell icon so you're notified each time I upload a video. Until next time, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.